Hello friends, my name is Steve Guttenberg and I am the Audiophiliac, and today's show is about, well, it's kind of a confession, my confession, a reviewer's confession about, well, the BS words that we reviewers use. Now, I'm not just talking about audio reviewers, I'm talking about reviewers, movie reviewers or wine reviewers or golf club reviewers. And the two BS words that top my list, they are the best and the greatest. This is the best speaker. This is the best, the world's greatest turntable or something. No, it's not. There's not the best. Now, the truth is, and here's the hard part, that most products are average, right? I mean, there's some at the low end of the scale that are bad or poor, right? And then there's a few, tiny few that are really, really, really exceptional. But most of them are average. Now I do, 55 or 65 reviews a year. Most of those are average. But can I do a review and say, the X amplifier, it's okay. It's kind of average. It's, does the job, etc., etc. Does that work in the context of a review? The pressure that I feel from my viewers, or it used to be my readers, would be to say that this is great. This is the best I've heard of this type. No. Now what I do, if you're paying attention to my style of reviewing, as I start many reviews by saying I'm excited. And when I'm excited, it's because there's something interesting about the product, or the designer is interesting, or where it comes from. There's something about it, there's a hook, is what I'm saying, right? That's what I get excited about. Now, I admit, I am guilty that I have sometimes slipped and used the word the best, or maybe the greatest. That was probably laziness on my part that I succumbed. I succumbed to the pressure to say, this is the best, blah, blah, blah. Now, the thing is, they're all different. That's what's really going on in the world of audio, and most things, right? They are different. One speaker to the next, they sound different. It's my job to describe those differences, and it's the consumer's job to figure out, of all those that are out there, that are the possibilities, which one is the best fit for you, for your room, for your acoustics, for your budget, etc., etc. What's the best fit? And as a reviewer, I can't take you through that process, but I can describe the product, and hopefully there's some alignment there between what I'm talking about and what you need that they fit. That's what I can do. I think that's what any reviewer can do. That's my job, because they do, speakers especially, but speakers and amplifiers and DACs, they do sound different, and I'm here to tell you what the differences are. Now, I understand the idea that I should be doing comparisons of the product that I'm reviewing to similar products that I have reviewed. But the reality is, like I said, I do 55 or 60 reviews a year. That would add up to be a lot of stuff if I was hanging on to all of them, or even most of them, or a big chunk of them. No, some of them I choose to hold on to if the manufacturer agrees to using comparisons, like, for example, the Denafreps Aries. That's been here for a long time. And it's, by the way, it's really tiny. So it's easy to keep around. But bigger things like speakers, it's hard. So I don't have them. And unlike many reviewers that claim that they can do mental comparisons between products they reviewed 2 years ago or 5 years ago or 6 months ago and the one they're reviewing that day, I don't have that superpower. I'm sorry. Now, if I recently reviewed it, within a month or so, sure, I can do a mental comparison. But after that, remember where I'm coming from here. Most of them are average. They aren't really exceptional in their sound. They're different. That's what they do. As for the idea that we're making progress year after year, we're making better and better stuff, that is generally true. And when they say better, another word that's tough because it's kind of like best, when we say better in the modern context, we generally mean more transparent, the clearer sounding products than the ones from 10 years ago or 20 years ago or 30 years ago. Yeah, I would say that's true. But when I've listened to older products like the Magnapan SMG that I have here that is sticking around, that was made in 1986. Sounds really good. It doesn't sound like the LRS. It doesn't. but it's really good. When I reviewed the Macintosh C22 preamp, a vintage preamp that was made in 1962, no, it was not transparent, but it was juicy, it was rich, it was warm, it was fun. It was a very exciting sounding preamp. And the 1975 Audio Research SP3A preamp, really good, really good, really, really good. I had fun with that preamp. Oh, a few years ago I was in a store and I heard a 1975 or so Tannoy Ardent, big 15-inch full range driver with a tweeter in the center, coaxial, in other words, concentric driver, I should say. That speaker was a blast in ways that a lot of modern speakers can't equal in terms of its fun and oomph and power and joy that that speaker delivered. So the old ones were good. The new ones are good too. In terms of better, well, as I said, I think the only way we currently in 2022 describe better is that it's clearer, more transparent. And that kind of means the same thing as lower distortion as the products made 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago. Yeah, I'd say if that's what you're looking for, if that's what you need, then that's what you should buy. You should stick to new stuff. But if you are into, let's say, the romance of audio and you like those colorations and a little bit higher distortion of the older products, that's valid too. I mean, buying vintage is a whole separate trip because it's more likely to have service issues and stuff like that. But in terms of enjoying the music, the old stuff could be really, really good. Now, speaking of returning things, here's a bit of consumer buying advice. If you're going to buy a big thing, a heavy thing, a speaker, a heavy amplifier, it weighs, more than 30, 40 pounds, one of the things that you should consider in the buying process is the warranty, which I do usually try to mention in the review. But beyond the warranty, I guess the question is, if you have a service problem, who is going to pay for the shipping of this heavy thing to the manufacturer or to a service center, and hopefully in your country? Because if you bought a European product and you're in the US, or you're in Europe and you bought a US made product, who and how and where is that going to be serviced, and who's going to pay for shipping this heavy box? And what happens if the box gets damaged? All these problems that associate with moving heavy stuff around. Now, I did a podcast recently about shipping, and I will link to that below. But it's all about shipping heavy things. But anyway, yes, these are important questions to think about, or important issues to think about before you buy anything. So beyond the sheer question of what does it sound like, well, think about if the need arises to service it, how that's going to play out. And if you have any concerns, it might be a wise move to contact the company by email or even phone and ask them that question. I'm considering buying your 80-pound amplifier, and you're here and I'm there, and who's going to pay to service that? It's worth thinking about, especially if you're investing, lots of money. You want to have that assurance that everything's going to be okay. Now, of course, if you're buying from a brick and mortar dealer, these questions should be addressed to the dealer himself or herself, right? Yes, I know we all want the best $500 speaker, the best $1,000 speaker, the best $800 DAC, whatever, Now, I will say, speaking of $800 DACs, that the Denafreps Aries that I have here, now I have recommended to friends, people that I know personally, when they ask, hey, I want a DAC, I don't want to spend $1 million, and I say, check out the Denafreps Aries. And of all the people that have done that, and if I had to count, it would probably be 10 people at this point, every single one has loved that DAC. That makes me happy that I can make a recommendation that actually works, because there's no guarantee when I recommend something in a video or to a person that when they buy it, they can actually like it, right? But in this case, it just so happened that the Denafreps Aries click with a lot of people. Maybe it's the best. No, I'm not going to get into that trap. No, sorry. Speaking of the best, am I the best? Am I the best reviewer? A lot of comments for me sometimes say things like that. Of course, not all the comments are positive for me. That's understandable. But Some people say that I'm the best. Now that's a judgment call on your end, whether who was the best reviewer, which I would think means the most reliable reviewer, one that you connect with. Maybe that's it. And of course you could connect with more than one. So that's also possible. But anyway, speaking of the best, it is now time for the Audiophiliac Viewer System of the Day. Okay, this one comes from Thomas. He is a social worker and he lives in Toronto, Canada. He's been interested in audio for about 46 years, but he took some time off when he raised his 2 children. And now that they are adults, he's back and he's picking up where he left off. And since Canada is such a multicultural country, he's decided to list the country of origin for each of the pieces in his system. Starting with the Auris HA2SF headphone amplifier, that comes from Serbia. The headphones are Focal Utopia, they are made in France. The Heron Audio Line Stage and Monoblocks are made in the US. The Arenda N100C music server comes from Korea. The Metrum Acoustics Octave Mark II DAC is made in the Netherlands. The Denafreps Terminator DAC is made in China. Cables are from Audio Sensibility. They are made in Canada, and so are the speakers. Those are Tetra 606. By the way, the 2 equipment stands were made by Thomas on his balcony. Nice going, Thomas. All right, we are back. My name is Steve Guttenberg. I know my hair's been a little weird lately, but I'm working on it. I think this is a little better today. Anyway, thank you for being here. If you enjoy the channel, if you enjoy what I'm doing here, please consider supporting my efforts through my Patreon. Now, there's a link to the Patreon directly below, but it's patreon.com/audiophiliac. But look around. Now, you can subscribe for a few bucks a month, up to $50 a month. And for $50 a month, hey, you and I can chat for 15 minutes or so in the beginning of each month. Some people do that, and they do it for a month or 2, and they get what they need, and they're done. And some people have actually stuck around for years. 2 of them for over 4 years. So that says something, I think. But the people that subscribe for $3-4 bucks a month, when I communicate with them and they have questions and emails, I really do try to answer those emails. So anyway, that's one of the benefits of being one of my patrons. Beyond that, you may have heard that I have a podcast which has a catchy name. It's called the Audiophiliac Podcast. And you can listen to it on my own website, which is linked to below, or you can listen to it on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, the usual places that podcasts are heard. Beyond that, you could just subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so, and hit that like button. Yes, hit the like button. The YouTube algorithm favors the people who make videos when they get lots of likes. And that's important to me because I want to be liked. Do you like me? You must. You watched this far into the video. Anyway, all right, we're gonna tie this thing up. Thank you so much for watching. Please come back soon.